Reinhard, I'd like to start this conversation by asking you a question on role models. Did you have role models during your life, at different stages of your life? Could you please talk to us a little bit about them?
Absolutely, did I. I'm very privileged in that respect because I had a father who was a physicist. He was an experimentalist. He was doing research on solids, and actually, while I was in good school, I learned a lot from him about experimental physics. We built experiments together, and in fact, my first spectrograph I built with him, so that was great. Later on in my life, I had more, mentors, and mentors really, I would say, are extremely important. My second mentor, in many ways, is my second father. It's a very, very famous physicist. His name is Charles Townes. Charlie, when I got to know him, he was 70 years old, and he died at 99. He wanted to become 100. Didn't quite make it, but anyhow, Charlie got his Nobel Prize for the invention of the laser on the maser, and in many ways, I would say, from the style of research and how to approach things, I've learned my tools from him. He always would say the following thing: you see, science is exploring. He loved exploring nature, and he would say, well, you see, it's like going into a forest. You go into a forest which you don't know, and you go there and you see these wonderful trees, and you explore the trees, and then after a while you become a real scientist in that you take some notes. I mean, you want to remember what you've seen. Then after a while you see more than the trees, you see their flowers. And still further on, you start to become a physicist. What does that mean? What does that mean? Well, you see that there are blue flowers and red flowers. And you see that the blue flowers are always on the left side of the path. Always. You would say, well, why would that be? Is that chance? So as a physicist, you learn that at some point, if you see irregularities in nature, you want to understand it. What's behind it? So it's these kind of things you learn. There's another thing I learned from Charlie, which was, so you have walked now your forest, and it's just been absolutely fantastic exploration. And all of a sudden you hear twigs behind you going, and you hear voices. That's when you should leave the forest.
Thank you very much. You could have probably followed a career in several directions. I don't know. So this is the first question. Were you thinking about following a career in several directions, or you had immediately a goal of going through physics and then to astrophysics? Could you please talk to us about your path into this discipline?
Yeah, when I was a youngster, let's say 10, 12, 13 years old, I was sure I wanted to become an archaeologist. Now you see, actually, I'm an archaeologist because astronomy in many ways is archaeology. You look at the past, in this case not of humanity, but of the universe. When you look out to very distant objects in the sky, you look at the past. But then when I thought more and I knew a little more about archaeology, I said, well, okay, the Romans, well, they have been researched, and the Greeks, pretty much Egyptians. So what's left? Oh, probably the tropics. And I hate snakes. I really can't take snakes. So, wasn't anything. So my father was delighted because that meant that, he said, come over to me and see me, and we did physics together. But then, of course, you study physics like all students do initially. Just you broadly acquire the knowledge, and that's very broad. So at some point, when you get into your master's time, then you might have to make a decision. And again, my father helped me. He basically said, well, look, son, I can give you some advice if you like. I mean, I would say, don't go into particle physics or nuclear physics. These are big fields. There's so many people. It's not fun to work. Yeah, it's go somewhere where it's really fresh and new. Now, one thing, be clear about it. You don't go into studies of solids. That's where I am. Don't go here. But I heard astronomy might be interesting, especially we have a new Max Planck Institute. They do radio astronomy. Why don't you check that out? And I did. I moved to Bonn and continued my studies in Bonn. Now, after a while, I found, however, the class is pretty boring. We were propagating waves through waveguides on Mondays. On Tuesdays, it was some other technical thing. I wanted to learn about the science, and that was not so much. And then in optical astronomy, I had to learn about magnitudes, and I didn't understand why you had to go to a logarithm of 2.5 or 5. Not 10. But then I got the chance, in fact, to a summer university of a very famous biologist, and he talked about the self-organization of DNA and proteins towards life. I thought it was absolutely fascinating. So after 2 weeks of that, I was sure that I wanted to become a biologist, and so I went, a young man as I was quite uncertain. Professor, do you take students? And he said, yeah, well, let's see, what is your field of study? I said, physics, because of course, as a son of a physicist, I was proud. Oh boy. He said, oh, physics, yeah. Yeah, we have a few people repairing our apparatus. So this was unfortunately the end of my career in biology. My 2 daughters are doing this now for me. They are doing biology, so it's a field which I might do in my next life.
Okay, thank you, Reinhard. So people look at you and think we have here someone that achieved so many things in life, but I'm sure that you had a lot of difficulties in your life. And the question is, could you share some of the difficulties you faced during your life? And you can then answer probably for each of them, how did you surpass, and what was your guiding line? Just discuss with us and talk to us about these aspects.
Yeah, well, I mean, if you want to do something in your life, then you will certainly at some juncture hit some resistance or difficulties, sure. I would say I was privileged. I had little of that. I had good advice, and the roads I took were mostly successful. Now, there was one thing I have to say which was very important for me, and I think is very important for young people who want to go into challenging professions, and research is challenging. Every day is challenging. You have to learn something new. I feel I haven't done anything if I'm not challenged. If I understand everything, that's terrible. I have to learn something. But that means, of course, you have to have the rigor and also, in a way, the perseverance to do that. And that's not always easy to do. If you're down one day, or you don't want to do this. This is where, in fact, my second thing I did in my life helped me. I was, in fact, when I was young, trying to train to become an athlete. Track and field, I was for a while Germany's best javelin thrower, and I wanted to go to Olympic Games. Now, that's not easy at all, and that failed, in fact. But I learned from that failing, because clearly you want to make sure that you understand early enough when you're making mistakes. And so, yes, I've made mistakes many times over, and I'm still making them every day. And to recognize that and to have people to talk to about it, that's sort of the critical thing. But then I had these mentors who really, for me, absolutely incredible, and that helped. Now I'm lucky in the sense that I went from Europe to the United States. Initially, almost like, well, I'm a post-war German. I didn't want to be German anymore. I felt no, what Germany had done was just too bad. And I felt that America was the great dream. And it was for me and my wife and then for our children, it was wonderful. It wouldn't be there anymore now, I have to say. So I was lucky that I was in that situation then and not now. And then I came back to what is a bit of a paradise, namely the Max Planck Society, where when they give you a directorship, as they did to me, then you can do whatever you like, basically. You can take risks. And that's the critical thing. To just do what everyone else is doing is not gonna do it. It's not gonna cut it. And so you of course you make mistakes, but you can at least take risks and go in forests, like Charlie Town said, where nobody else has been.
So taking risks is really something that I would say that nowadays people don't like, and in the way we fund research and the way we award resources to researchers is basically done by panels, and we know that panels tend to be very conservative and will look down with some prejudice to a high risk, high gain research direction. So could you discuss a little bit about this? What could be done to change it? What are your experiences? Because this is something, at least in my own opinion, that is limiting science and the progress of science, at least in the discipline I know better, which is astrophysics. Currently, I believe, I might be wrong, that this is a limitation.
Yeah, no, absolutely right. You're right. I mean, it is the fact that risk-taking is considered to be, dangerous. Sometimes even a crime, because you're wasting resources. And indeed, that can be, and it's not an easy decision. I can tell you that if you look at a top university and or Max Planck, where they are willing to take some amount of risk with their staff and students and so forth, and if you fail too many times, well then you will stop doing risks and become just like everyone else. But absolutely that is. Another one I would say, which I'm even more in fear of, is to lose the sight of courage and the sight of being curious and the sight of excellence. We are in a time where many young people feel, so many problems inside. There's a war, climate, everything is difficult, and it will be very difficult for me to earn more than my parents. The dream which always pulled and pushed societies forward in the past. I want to do better than my parents and my grandparents. Many of the young people believe that's not possible anymore. That's really sad, because only then, if you're taking risks, if you're going for it with all your might, then you have a chance to be successful. I really do hope that our societies, and I would say now our societies in Europe in particular, we've done so well in Europe. I hope we stay together and we are learning again that we want to have courage and take risks and go for excellence and not just do what's comfortable.
Continuing your comment, young people, they probably will want to do better than their parents. Sometimes they look into money, but better is quite vague and even better than vague, a wide concept. And science, they will look into science with year round, and maybe I will not have a successful life if you measure it by money, by earning with your money. And even going into physics, because there are several areas of science, they'll even say I will have less success in physics than other areas that are growing, I don't know, doing batteries, solid state stuff. doing climate. And so what will be your advice to someone that really loves astrophysics, but in a way thinks that going to astrophysics will probably be difficult or be a dead end when this person could just go into other direction?
Well, I would say, first of all, you shouldn't push anyone to do something. The most important first condition, so to speak, is that you're burning for something, that you really want to do it, that you're excited about it. Because excitement breeds curiosity. And you see babies, one of my grandchildren is 3 years old. He's a scientist at heart. He sits there and does this and wants to know how to put things together. And many kids have that born into them. That's humanity, that curiosity, that being excited about it. And the trick is not to lose it. Not to lose it and keep it. Keep that curiosity. And then you start something, and then you will undoubtedly in one way or another have success. Maybe you feel, okay, and it's not quite what I wanted. I wanted to do something more this way. And then do it. Go ahead and change it. But go where your excitement is a maximum, because then that keeps you up in the nights when you have failure, when you don't do so well. And they will come, absolutely. Not everything can go well in life. So you must do that. But I have to say, lucky. I was privileged and lucky, and the amount of problems with health and so forth was relatively small. And there are people who have so many challenges that's easy to tell them do this, do that, and they won't be able to do it. So if you can, do it.
So you talk to us about toddler, and the daily life of a toddler is of a scientist in a way, exploring the world around. And I want you to talk to us or speak to us a little bit about your daily life. And your daily life surely changed from a younger age when you're doing your PhD to now. And what is basically the daily life of an astrophysicist like you and during the career? How was your daily life and how is your daily life now?
Well, I would say nothing has really changed in principle, because because I'm still able, and because people let me continue at age 71 doing what I want to do, I'm having fun. I'm just having fun, and so by having fun, I can continue to be a bit the same person I was. Now, of course, one gets old, one tends to forget. It's very difficult to, what took you 3 days to learn now takes you almost infinite amount of time. So things are more challenging, but then you also have some experiences which you can bring in. So overall, I would say getting older per se doesn't have to be negative. Sure, the amount of ambition, shall we say, has grown. Of course it has grown, because we were successful, and in my career I went from a very good institute initially in my PhD studies to the United States, where I was in 2 top groups, became a professor there, learned how to teach, do research, and then Max Planck, where I did have a bigger group, grew, more extensive projects. We were lucky most of the time. We made mistakes sometimes, one or the other thing. You don't want to think about what we did, but most of the time we were lucky. So by slowly growing and keeping a level head and so forth, and being lucky, then things go well.
Now my last question is about these ideas that exist in our society of diversity, inclusiveness, the negative aspect of it, that is racism, xenophobia, and at the same time there is in a way a thing I will call ageism, which is racism against people that have more age than average. And in a way, these people are very important, and because they are role models, because they have experience. And so this ageism, in the sense of racism, is something that exists in our society, and I find deeply troubling. So I would like to hear your, let's say, your feelings, because I'm almost sure that you feel this form of racism.
Absolutely, I
that
do.
is ageism. I will call it ageism. And could you share with us what you think it should be changed? Because I think this is really a loss to our society and a paradox. We talk about inclusiveness, we talk about diversity, and in the end, we have this form of racism that is ageism.
Yeah, absolutely. I fully agree. And let me expand even. I mean, I think in my generation, I'm spoiled because I had the lucky life after the Second World War, growing up in a country which was with great fault, but was coming back and made great strides. And I was, when I was a young man, in a situation where Europe came together. So that was all something which I had nothing to do with, and it was given to me, and that's absolutely fantastic. And now, at the end of my life, where I'm still excited about what I'm doing, I have to see all kinds of stuff which doesn't seem to work anymore. After the Cold War ended, we all felt, wow, globalism is the answer. Absolutely, you can go elsewhere and experience everything. The communication goes becoming easy. I'm not a social media person, but in the sense of the global village, where you can learn about other countries and wonderful. But that has turned around and has shown now ugly, ugly other sides. Envy, the realization that, okay, there were people in the past who were always in power, and they shouldn't be in power anymore. And the fact that other people with other cultures express their ways in different ways than you do, and you don't like that, therefore you're going to shut them up. Shut them up, not let them speak. You don't have the courage to have free speech. No, we tell people, shut up, don't want to hear about you. And we say, well, you are from a country which has a colonial past. Oh, you should suffer for all these thousands of years where this will bring humanity not further. We have to go through this now. It will be a very tough time. We may lose some very essential things. And the danger is that the Western world, which is entangled in this right now, Europe, United States of America, not so much Asia, of course, will lose the view, the sight of other dangers. We see that right now in Israel, where people have become lackluster in their watching out what's happening around them, and they find themselves all of a sudden in a death struggle, which is terrible. No, we are really moving into a difficult time, and I don't have a recipe how to improve on this other than to say, yes, please, make sure that if you have an opinion, that you have the best information to base it on. Not just because somebody said, he is a criminal, he shouldn't be there, she shouldn't have done that. Make sure you know a little bit more.
And taking your last sentence, to know a little bit more, this is the role of science. In science, you want to know a little bit more. And, we had our fathers, scientific fathers, that died a long time ago. We read their books. we studied from their lessons, and they came from all over the world, from Russia during the Cold War, from Asia, from the ancient times. So we are, in a way, let's say, science is something that is wide in time, thousands of years old, into the past, and wide in geography and cultures. And this is very important for the future of science, but for the future of humanity, because science, in a way, brings people together from different cultures, different pasts, and bounds them into this freedom of speech and discussion on scientific matters. So could you elaborate on the role of science in our modern societies, where populism, where in-depth thinking, critical thinking completely disappears? Can you just?
Well, as if I'm not a sage. I can observe that on the one hand, we have demonstrated benefits from science, which everyone can see easily. Let's take just the example of the pandemic. It was absolutely easily demonstrable, and it's easy to see that millions of lives were saved and protected because of an invention which was made in the laboratory 20 years earlier without any intention to use it for that purpose, and then a second step to apply it in the hospital for the purposes it was used for. And within an incredibly short period of time, it solved a gigantic problem of humanity. So you would have thought that everyone would have said, hey, science works, let's believe it. But no, all of a sudden you have demonstrations in Germany and elsewhere of people saying, oh, this is just not true. This is not true. This is all faked. This is not faked. I'm listening into social media and they tell me it's just not true. They're just making this up. No, absolutely not. And there is a difference between fake news and truth. And in fact, I have to say, again, if science were fake news, we wouldn't have cars. Okay, we don't want to have cars anymore now, at least not those with fossil fuels. Well, so then we should build better cars. Not saying, oh, okay, then let's forget about cars. Let's go back to a life we had when we were in the Stone Ages. No, that's not the solution. The solution is scientific research to solve the problems, and they are there. They will be there. Computing is going to be a tremendous force. And we need to take risks to do this. We need to take risks also in political matters. We cannot always say, oh, you have to guarantee, and this form should protect you from everything. No, we have to be courageous.
Reinhard, I would like to ask you about the many things that you have done in your life. Of course, you have a plethora of research. There is probably a topic that is your favorite, just like an artist has some favorite, if you're a composer, some favorite compositions, if you're a painter, some favorite paintings, a sculpture, some favorite sculpture. So looking back and to all you have achieved and discovered, what is let's say, your favorite discovery, your favorite work? I'm not saying what is the most important, I'm just asking, of all of them, which is the one you relate the most from an emotional point of view, that you love, and it was really something that you love doing in terms of the very diverse things you have done in your lifetime?
Yeah, well, I mean, I would say it boils down to the fact that, I've done what the astronomers would say observational astronomy in a specific style. where, and here comes the physicist, where we would develop in the group, in a larger group. Nowadays it can even be a European collaboration of substantial size, instrumentation which is very challenging. Maybe initially you would even say it's impossible. And this challenges to find a way to make it go. That is something which has attracted me throughout my career. Then comes the next thing. You have a new toy you can apply to observational astronomy. And then, we've done many things. We've looked at how stars form. We are eagerly trying to understand how these objects we call Milky Ways, like our own, where there are billions of in the universe, how they have grown over cosmic time and how they evolved, how they grew. So that's a fascinating subject in itself, and how this connects over cosmological timescales back to the early universe. All of this is fantastic, but what really gets me going is when I can connect this to frontline physics. You see, astronomy, in the eyes of many physicists, at least so for instance, my father, was always a subject which was sort of nice, wonderful, good research, but not exactly really very accurate, not exactly very quantitative. You know things to better of order of magnitude, then you're already in good shape. No, I think what has excited me most and excites me most is to carry that exploration of the forest further into the regime of really basic physics. And here we are, at an absolutely unique spot in the evolution of astronomy. Astronomy was there once before, namely when the Babylonians and the Greeks explored the solar system, so to speak. But lately, astronomy also has been a lot of astronomy. And that has not been so exciting for me. Yes, you need, if you look at complex systems like humans, like animals, like the universe and Milky Ways, you need statistics. But statistical research has not excited me as much as being able to actually find out whether there is a black hole in the galactic center and how these things we call black holes actually came about in the universe. So it's this sort of mixture of exploration of the universe with physics.
If you enjoyed the video, like and subscribe.